Welcome to the QB Chronicles, an SMU Football Podcast with Garrett Gilbert and Kyle Padron. Join former SMU quarterbacks Garrett and Kyle as they break down each week's game, offering insights from their own experiences on the field. In addition to game analysis, we'll also bring you special episodes featuring interviews with past and present SMU players, sharing their stories and perspectives. Whether you're a diehard Mustang fan or just love football, this podcast is your go-to source for all things SMU football. Pony up!
Hey everybody, this is Kyle Padron. I'm joined with former SMU quarterback and good friend of mine, Garrett Gilbert. We're going to break down the Game 1 victory for SMU coming off the 29-24 victory. Garrett, what was your takeaway from Saturday, specifically as it relates to Preston Stone and the quarterbacks and how the offense played against Nevada?
Yeah, man. Just good to be here. I hope we can have some fun talking ball this year, Kyle. I think first games are always tough, right? You never know what to expect. You go into it as a almost 4-touchdown favorite and come out, with a victory because you scored a touchdown in the last minute and a half. It's, certainly that plane flight home from Reno could have been a lot different. And obviously they're glad to be 1-0, but man, you really expected them, with all the hype going into the year. I felt like, it was just kind of like, disinterested is not the right word, but like, that's a team you want to impose your will on. And who knows, maybe Nevada will turn out to, surprise some people, but as it currently stands, what are they picked last in the Mountain West? And, I'm curious what you think too, and what's your thoughts from watching it. I feel like sometimes I get a little wrapped up as a fan, and being able to take a step back now and look at it from more of an X's and O's perspective. But again, all that being said, 1-0 is a whole lot better than 0-1.
And yeah, I think, week 0 games and, first game of the year, I think coming into the game, Nevada had 54, 56 new players on the roster from a year ago. So you really don't know what to expect. Preseason rankings are one thing, but once you get on the field and start playing, I was impressed with how Nevada used their quarterback, Jeff Trout. The coach there had great success at Montana State, similar offense, and their quarterback seemed to play well, very efficient in the running game. Probably could have been more efficient in the passing game, which I think our defense stepped up when they needed to. But I came away super impressed with Ika Hihifo, if I'm saying that name correctly. On their defensive side of the ball, I think he created a lot of havoc for our offense in the first half. And, some of the expectations of our offense and what we saw a year ago, getting those fast starts. And I think it caught a lot of SMU fans by surprise of how, inefficient we were on offense. Turnovers, special teams was pretty disastrous early on. And but to your point, came away with it 1-0. That plane flight home was a lot more fun than what it could have been coming back 0-1. So, I think it was probably a good wake-up call, coming away 1-0, playing in a closer game than what we thought it would have been. Excited for those guys to get the first week win, but certainly a lot to improve upon in the film room and getting ready for Houston Christian in 6 days. So.
No doubt about it. Yeah, and you kind of hit on this, but like early on, it's like, all right, so first pass of the game is an interception. And then turn around, the defense stands up tall and stops them. And then SMU turns around and fumbles a punt exchange and give Nevada a short field. Now all of a sudden you're down 7-0 to start the year on the road. And obviously it's a lot more fun to go into the film room on Sunday, as I'm sure they did. And as I'm sure after a win, and to be able to have that much to learn from. Yep. But the things that, I felt like stood out as far as mistakes go, I mean, the early season jitters and those types of things, but like the discipline is where I feel like, there were 2 or 3 15-yard penalties, unsportsmanlike conducts, guys jawing after plays. Like that stuff is got to be addressed and fixed, right? Because you play a team that can take advantage of it. You don't have the chance to score with a minute late. You don't have the chance to rely on South Lake Carroll legend RJ Maryland to go win the game for you.
Go Dragons, protect the tradition.
Yeah. So So yeah, again, there is, but I think, not to harp on the negatives, but like there's a lot of things that the old cliche is you improve, the teams improve the most from week 1 to week 2. We better hope that's the case as Mustang fans, because, there was a lot out there that, is like, you go play a team and you mentioned Nevada, had some guys on the defensive side of the ball that, created problems and havoc. Like, this should be a team with where we were last year running the ball. We need to average more than 2 point, less than 3 yards a carry. We ought to be able to go run the ball and impose our will on teams like that. And I think that's definitely one thing I'm going to be looking for this week is can we go impose our will on a team that is, by all accounts, a lesser opponent?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think with the game we have coming up, a lot of mistakes to correct from Nevada, but also, it should almost be, I don't want to call it routes on air, but it should be a game where we control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. We impose our will in the run game. A lot of big plays spurred on from play action opportunities, RPOs, but really, get a lot of different guys, 1 and 2 deep, some good reps going into, some more stiffer competition later down the road. Should be a good week. Hopefully practices, intensity's picked up, clean up the penalties, special teams mistakes, and clean those up against Houston Christian and really get into the meat of the schedule here. With some tough opponents, BYU, TCU, Florida State down the line. So got to get it turned around quickly, but should have a good opportunity to do so this coming Saturday against Houston Christian. Garrett, I wanted to ask you, from, I guess, the comms era has made its way into football. And you and I played in an era where there was a lot of hand signals, maybe a lot of back and forth to the sideline back when we played for June.
A lot of extra conditioning running over the sideline and back.
Probably the most in shape I've been in my life. But curious the benefits and maybe the negatives to having the comms in the headset and the helmet from your perspective, as you've probably handled more of that from your time in the league. What do you see as a benefit in college football? And then maybe, it looked like there were some challenges from sideline head coach to Preston and Kevin this week.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because I think that was something that not a lot of people were talking about, but it is a big change. And I know, so I got the privilege to go work at the Manning camp this year, and I was talking to all the counselors there who are all just current college quarterbacks, and they were all talking about the different ways they were going to use it. And my biggest thought was, this is going to be very different than going headset to headset when you're just going coach to coach. It's going to be, you even saw Preston a few times covering his ears. Yeah. It's not like there were, even 20,000 people at the game, or at least it didn't look that way. So how does, all right, sure, out on the practice field when it's, Rhett, Coach Lashley communicating with Preston and there's no noise, everything probably sounds great. But when you get into a stadium environment and there's noise interference, there's fan interference, there's all these kinds of things going on. I would say it's definitely a learned skill as far as how do you speak the play into the headset, and then as the quarterback, how do you hear and regurgitate that play to the receivers and the offensive linemen, especially in a no huddle situation.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a definite learning curve. And I would imagine that that's another area where Preston and Kevin probably went back to Coach Lashley this week and they said, hey, Coach, or at least I would highly encourage them to do so. Coach, this is what I heard well. This is what I heard poorly. We need to turn our volume down 2 or 3 clicks. We need to turn the volume up a little bit. And everybody kind of has a different way about doing it. But I always found that the coaches that were best at calling the plays were able to it's like I feel like a dad talking to my toddler right now, but speak in an inside voice, keep things low and calm and quiet so that I can hear everything that you're saying. And there's 40 seconds while we're trying to go really fast on offense, you've got to be able to speak clearly enough into a microphone that's really not the best. I mean, it's, we're not talking about a speaker that's, we're not talking about AirPod Pros here. We're talking about a little orange speaker that's not very high tech. And I mean, it is high tech, but, comparatively the sound quality is a little lower. So how do you, maximize the communication level? And I think that's something that there needs to be, weekly communication between coach and player to get that right. Where I thought you were going to go with this, and something I wanted to ask you was, you spoke about both quarterbacks playing. What do you think, in general, what do you think of, a 2-quarterback system? They're obviously different players. What do you think about, what that does to rhythm, to, all the different aspects of playing quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great part about having Preston and Kevin is I don't think you have to worry week to week. If God forbid one of these guys goes down, we have another guy that can step in and play at a high level. And I think that's the great thing, and probably challenging for Coach Lashley and the offensive staff would be my guess. And part of why you saw the rotation in the first half. Interested to maybe learn more about maybe why Preston got more snaps and probably played the rest of the game. Really, I don't think Kevin got any additional snaps outside of those first 2 series in the first half, where he had a touchdown drive and arguably was the more productive quarterback in the first half. I think from a mental side, which the quarterback position is heavy up top. I'm curious what it does long term if we see that rotation going forward. What it does to a Preston, what it does to a Kevin, mentally getting into a rhythm, as you mentioned. Preston got into a rhythm in the second half, but he wasn't, splitting snaps. And, Kevin came in, played well early on, and, throws a touchdown, or at least leads a touchdown drive. And curious what he does coming out the next series. He's got some rhythm, got some momentum with the offense. And, I think obviously they're both team captains, so they have the respect of the entire team, entire locker room, the coaching staff. I think they're both mature in the fact that they're handling this extremely well. I'm interested, again, to learn, what the NIL is doing and maybe the cause of this, maybe trying to keep Kevin happy or obviously, we're going to need him like we needed him last year, winning a conference championship. He came in and played at a high level. So I think it's kind of a good and bad thing. The old saying is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. And, it's an interesting dilemma. But how do we move forward? And, is Preston the guy going forward? Is Kevin going to get, 2-3 series in the first half next week? Hopefully he gets, maybe Preston goes the first half, Kevin goes the second half. I don't know. But, is that going to continue into BYU, TCU, Florida State, and on down the road? I'm just not certain that's a sustainable rotation long term for these kids.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's I think obviously, we're heavy on cliches here today, but the when you have 2, you have none thing to me just could not be truer. And obviously, ultimately, look, it's on the player and whoever responds better to this situation. It's on them. It's on those guys. They got to go out and perform and compete. But there's something to being in rhythm and letting the game come to you that I just don't think you necessarily get. And you really have to, convince yourself to take what the defense gives you when maybe your reps are maybe limited, and convince yourself to make the right play. Whereas, it's more, rewarding sometimes, but it's also far more risky to go out and try and push the envelope and make that play because, you don't know if you're going to see the field again for, a quarter and then the games, and so I will say, I think, to your point about, what led to Preston playing the rest of the game. I mean, obviously Preston was the guy last year. He, until he got injured, and then Kevin did a great job finishing the year off and winning, especially the conference title game. But maybe it was as simple as playing from behind. Rhett liked Preston's ability to throw from the pocket and felt like those things were necessary. I don't know. And I'm like you, I'm very interested to see what happens going forward because it is tough on, even when you're going on clap cadence, everything sounds a little bit different. It's almost impossible to replicate. And so how does the rest of the offense respond when there's another guy in there? And so, that's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing this week.
Yeah. What did you see defensively that, you thought, hey, we're doing this really well, whether it's the front 7 or in the secondary, anything that stood out to you on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I thought, to be totally honest with you, I thought for the most part, between the whistles, the defense played great. There was the undisciplined penalty here and there. There was the, illegal hands to the face. There was the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Both things, kept drives going for Nevada and helped them put points on the board. But overall, I thought, defense in general did a solid job. I think what they really need to do is we got to find a way. I mean, obviously this is, the age old, the most challenging question in football right now is how do you stop an athletic quarterback? And, I think Lewis had 80 rushing yards or so, and he was really the driving force behind everything they did as an offense. They didn't run the ball between the tackles with the backs very well. Really felt like we shut down their pass game pretty well. But when they needed a play, everybody knew where the ball was going, and Lewis was
long quarterback draw.
Yeah, he was able to go. He was able to go make plays and convert on situations that you really shouldn't allow. So,
yep.
I think that a little bit of that is situational awareness, and a lot of that is probably being unfamiliar with a team that, like you said, has 50 to 60 new players. But it's something that I think needs to, it can continue to improve, and I think we'll hopefully see this week.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, I think in the second half, I felt as a team, everybody seemed to settle in a little bit. And, when we made the comeback, I was impressed with, we pinned them down. They had that miscue on the kickoff. The guy drops the ball, calls a fair catch, and, we have them pinned down at the 2 or 1 yard line. And defense comes up with a huge safety. Offense is very much so complementary football. Defense does their job, gets the stop, gets points on the board. And then offense comes in, and Preston and RJ have a great connection. It seems we need to feed that guy the ball for sure.
100%.
He's a Travis Kelce type in my eyes, and
something in the water up there in South Lake.
15, yeah, you dang right there is. Get him 10, 15 touches a game, and the more we kind of institute the run game, opens up RJ and some of the guys on the outside. But I was impressed with the complementary football that they played, especially down the stretch and making that comeback. And some big throws by Preston, offensive line holding up for him. And he made a couple of tough throws where he got hit late. But just came away really impressed toward the end as they stuck together, found themselves in, maybe an adverse situation. And they looked in the eyes and, stared down the challenge and excelled. And there's a lot of positives to take away from the win. And again, to harp on it again, 1-0 is a lot better than 0-1, and certainly some game tape to go back and look at and improve upon.
When they absolutely had to, right? I mean, there was at that point it was basically do or die football. You're down 24-13, and things look pretty dire. Not to be too dramatic, but it was put up or shut up time, and they found a way to make the plays they need to with some big throws, big catches, like you mentioned, and then some very timely situational defense.
Yeah, I think it shows that if you don't have your best game on a Saturday and you can still find yourself in a situation to win a football game and then come out in the end. Obviously, we want to play well every Saturday, but if you find yourself in a situation where you're not playing, you're not in rhythm, you got some turnovers. I think we may have lost the turnover. I'll have to go back and look, but the turnover battle, typically when you lose on the road especially, you're not going to win a lot of football games. And to lose the turnover battle and come through in the end, I think showed a lot of character for this team and hopefully build some confidence in them. When they're clicking, they can win any game. But even when they're not clicking on all cylinders, they have a chance to win a game and come through in the end. Yeah,
well, you're exactly right. I mean, the stats show we had one turnover, but obviously we saw the fumbled punt exchange.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a second turnover. So losing the turnover battle 2-0 and finding a way to win is something to build upon.
Yep.
Any further thoughts?
No, man. I'm excited to see how they show up and respond this week. Got a good home opener. Again, should be one that we should dominate and again impose our will on both sides of the football, running game, and see a lot of different guys get some reps. Excited to see the 1 and 2 deep go, and hopefully put a good showing out there and get ready for the meat of the schedule here.
Yeah, no question. Any other before we go? I'm with you on looking ahead to this game. I think what I really want to see is just like impose our will from the first snap.
Yep.
Impose our will from the first snap. I would like to see. I haven't looked at a spread or anything yet, but I would like to see the game. I would like to see a game that's not in question. I would like to see a game where, and I think really the biggest thing is we're going into a power. I'm gonna have to use it's Power 4 conference now, right? The offensive and defensive lines are going to be a lot better. I think that's going to be the biggest difference. We've had the guys on the outside for a while. That's been shown in their ability to go play on Sundays. So now how do we grow as a front, offensively and defensively, because that's where we're going to find a way to compete with the Florida States of the world and the rest of the ACC. To be totally honest with you, that's going to be the difference.
Yeah, agreed. I think this week is, obviously come out with a fast start, see the offense click at a high level, defense. I mean, again, we keep saying this, but apply pressure, hold the run game, be kind of that steel curtain, if you will. Give the offense a lot of opportunities to put points on the board and see a lot of different kids get reps. And hopefully, by the first half, we've got a pretty sizable lead, to your point, nothing, in question, and, get a lot of these different kids some looks, some in-game experience, and kind of prepare ourselves down the line. If we need, kind of that next man up thing as, the season rolls on, you kind of get what comes along with a football season. And guys need to step into new roles, have some playing experience early on in the year that can step in and feel confident and go play at a high level.
Yeah, and that way we can get back out to the boulevard a little bit quicker too. So let's get that done in the first half. Hey, real quick, last thing. I think we're about ready to sign off here. Big week one coming up. Rest of college football. What's something you're looking forward to more in the world of college football this week as we get things started? Yeah,
I'm a big South Lake Carroll homer. So Quinn Ewers has got my attention for the long haul here. He had a good year last year. Excited to see a lot more growth in him. From year one to year two last year, and then now it's his team, and he's got a big role, big weight to carry moving into the SEC. And excited to see how he carries himself through the year, but. Seeing that offense role, I think Sark's got those guys in a position to do a lot of special things this year, and excited to see how Quinn leads the Horns. How about you?
Two things for me. I mentioned earlier I got the chance to go to the Manning camp, and Preston was there. I got to watch him, got to hang with him, which was awesome. But two of my favorites from Manning camp, and there were a number of others, but two of them have huge games this week, and that was Cade Klubnik and Riley Leonard, who just transferred to Notre Dame. So I'm excited to watch both of them go play in huge games to start off the year and see what the season brings for those guys.
Yeah, that Notre Dame A&M game will be a good one.
Yeah, no question.
Love it. GG, thanks for your time, brother. Enjoyed it.
Let's do it again, KP. That was fun.
Yes, sir.
Pony up.